This story is about Illinois and an ancient city that once rivaled London in size. About grassy hills that aren't really hills at all. And about something I saw one night. Something I still can't explain. Something that felt older than time and very aware of me. This is my experience at Cahokia Mounds. Before we get into the story, I'm Devin, and this is Porch Lore. Please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and help me reach 1,000 subscribers. Enjoy the story. This is Porch Lore. And I'm your host, Devin. This is the tale of the night at Cahokia. It started last summer. I'd been dealing with some life stuff. You know, that sort of restlessness that settles into your bones? That feeling like you're moving, but you're not going anywhere? I needed out. Not a spa weekend, and not a Netflix binge. I needed to go somewhere with history. Something bigger than me. Something ancient. That's when I decided to return to Cahokia. I had minored in archaeology in college and was lucky enough to spend my field school experience at Cahokia. That's right. I spent one of the best summers of my life in a tiny town in southern Illinois, right along the mighty Mississippi River. Cahokia is massive, and for some reason, we're not taught about it in school. Every American should know about this magnificent site. But unless you're into ancient archaeology like me, it's doubtful you've ever even heard of it. It's an archaeological site just outside St. Louis, and once, over 1,000 years ago, it was the largest city in what we now call North America. Believe it or not, it was bigger than Paris at the time. Its sprawling metropolis had tens of thousands of residents, huge wooden temples, markets, fortifications, and the most prominent feature? Mounds. Dozens and dozens of massive earthen mounds. Some for burials, some for ceremonies, and some we still don't even know. Something took a hold of me all those years ago when I spent the summer there. And ever since, I have been low-key obsessed with Cahokia. So, I booked a room in nearby Collinsville and planned a solo weekend trip to visit the site and take in its magical energy. I figured I'd soak in some prehistoric vibes, maybe do a little writing, and just reset my inner compass. But what I got was something else entirely. When I got to Collinsville, it was gray and overcast. The kind of sky that feels heavy, like it's full of secrets. And I don't know if you've ever been to that part of the United States, but they call it the American Bottom for a reason. It is an abnormally humid part of the Midwest. So I was sweating. I wanted to freshen up and change clothes. My motel was nothing special, your basic, super cheap roadside place, but it had a view of Monk's Mound in the distance. That's the biggest mound at Cahokia. It's over 100 feet tall and was built entirely by hand, one basket of dirt at a time. Imagine moving an entire mountain using only woven baskets. That's what they did, and they did it for a reason. I spent the day at the Interpretive Center, which, by the way, is incredibly well done. I love it there. It explains the whole rise and fall of this ancient Mississippian city, how they had complex social hierarchies, how they tracked the stars with their own wooden version of Stonehenge, called Woodhenge. The original wooden posts obviously aren't there anymore, but they have a reproduction of it where the Woodhenge once stood, and it's awesome. The people of Cahokia built ceremonial plazas larger than football fields, and then, around 1350, they just disappeared. And no one knows exactly why. Some say climate change. Some say internal strife. Some whisper about disease. But there's a theory I've heard more than once, even from one of the park volunteers, that whatever was worshipped there, whatever was buried there, didn't leave when the people did. I just laughed it off. The next day, I woke up before dawn, filled my thermos with coffee, and drove back to the site. I really wanted to climb Monk's Mound while the sun came up. I haven't done that in years. It's a long stairway over 150 steps, and by the time I reached the top, I was out of breath and sweating under my hoodie. But the view, always worth every step. From the summit, I could see the vast layout of the ancient city, the grand plaza below, the low rolling mounds stretching out in every direction like the backs of sleeping animals. And beyond that, the distant city skyline of St. Louis, which looked absurdly modern and fragile compared to the enduring earthwork beneath my feet. That's when I noticed something odd. There was a figure down below, near the edge of the forest bordering the site. It wasn't one of the tourists. It looked too tall, too still, and I could tell it wasn't a ranger. They all wore the same uniform. It didn't move at all. It just stood there, at the tree line, watching me. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and looked again, and it was gone. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was just a trick of the light. Maybe my imagination was just playing into the heightened energy of the place. But something about its shape stuck with me all day. The way it didn't seem to move or even breathe. That night, sleep was out of the question. I tossed and turned, replaying that moment over and over. The stillness of the figure, the way it seemed very aware of me. I couldn't explain it. I didn't even see eyes. I didn't see a face. I felt it watching me. And that feeling didn't go away when I left the mound. If anything, it followed me, like a pressure at the back of my skull. By midnight, I gave up on trying to sleep. I put on my boots, grabbed my headlamp and flashlight, and got in the car. My brain was buzzing. Something in me said, go back. Not fear, not curiosity, something deeper. Almost like whatever I'd seen had called me there. Now I want to be very clear. I didn't plan on doing anything illegal. I wasn't trying to trespass or vandalize. I just thought I'd drive by the site again, park outside the gate, and maybe take a few pictures from the road. I figured the darkness would shake loose whatever weird feeling was stuck in my head. But the darkness just made it worse. As I pulled up near the main entrance, I was struck by how still everything was. Not just quiet, but dead silent. No wind, no crickets, no night birds. So silent that the sound of my tires crunching on the gravel felt too loud. I parked the car, stepped out, and immediately got that creeping sensation again. By this time, it wasn't just an inkling. It was physical. The hair on the back of my neck stood straight up, my ears rang, and my chest felt tight. And then, something moved at the edge of the mounds. It wasn't a deer. It wasn't a coyote. It was tall, lanky, almost skeletal. And it moved like it didn't quite understand how joints worked. Like a marionette being tugged by an uncertain puppeteer. I froze. My flashlight was still in my coat pocket, but I didn't dare reach for it. Instead, I crouched down low, hid behind a tree, and waited. I watched the thing, whatever it was, as it walked slowly across the open plaza, heading toward the smaller mounds. Its limbs were too long, its posture too upright. It didn't walk like a human. It moved more like it wasn't used to walking at all. Then it vanished behind one of the smaller burial mounds. And the moment it disappeared, all the sounds came back. Crickets, the wind, distant frogs, dogs barking in the distance. It was like a spell had lifted. That should have been my cue to get in the car and leave. But I didn't. I can't tell you why, but I just had to know more. I walked the perimeter fence, found a break in the far side, not locked, just a chain gate left slightly ajar, and I slipped in. Once I was inside the site, the air felt different, heavier. It felt like I was stepping into a place that hadn't been disturbed in centuries, even though I knew school groups walked these paths every week. My flashlight cast a weak beam, barely strong enough to reach the next mound. The place is vast. You don't really realize it in daylight, but at night, It seems endless. Mounds in every direction. Rows of them. Some so small you could mistake them for natural rises. Others large enough to block out the horizon. I followed the direction I had seen the thing go, past Mound 72. That one has a reputation. Archaeologists found over 270 bodies buried there, mostly young women, sacrifices, some say. Others believe it was a mass grave following some calamity. But the most unnerving part? The layout was ritualistic. Bones arranged in deliberate patterns aligned to the sun. I didn't go up on Mound 72. I knew better than to step on something that sacred. But that's when I heard it, a low, rhythmic sound, like chanting, faint, carried on the wind. Too soft to be from a speaker or a prankster, but too strange in tone and cadence to be modern. So I followed it. I know, dumb move, but it felt like I had to. As I neared the woods that lined the edge of the site, the chanting stopped. It just cut off mid-syllable. Then I stepped into a small clearing surrounded by saplings. In the center of the clearing, partially buried in the ground, was a ring of stones. Smooth, dark, and perfectly aligned in a circle. They looked like they'd been placed here a long time ago. And in the middle of the circle was a hole. A deep one. Just wide enough for a person to slide into. I crouched at the edge and shined my flashlight down. Dirt, rocks, and faint impressions, like claw marks on the inside of the shaft. And then, behind me, I heard breathing. I didn't turn around right away. The sound of that breathing was so close I could feel the moist exhale against the back of my neck. Every instinct in my body screamed to run, but something told me not to move. Not yet. The breathing got louder, followed by a soft shuffling, like feet dragging through the leaves. Finally, I turned around, slowly, flashlight in hand, and there was nothing there. Well, nothing visible anyway, but the clearing felt wrong. The air was thick with humidity. It almost felt syrupy, and the circle of stones behind me seemed to pulse with a faint heat. I swear the ground itself felt alive. And then my flashlight flickered. Once, twice, and then it went out. I panicked, slapping it, trying to get it to work. When it finally blinked back on, the beam landed on something that I'll never forget as long as I live. It stood just beyond the circle, half in the woods, half in view, maybe 7 feet tall. It was gaunt. Its skin was mottled gray, almost translucent, and stretched too tight over its skeletal frame. The eyes weren't where they should have been. They were way too low, sunken, near the jawline, and they were glowing a faint amber color. Its mouth was wide, unnaturally wide. I couldn't see any teeth, just blackness inside. It didn't move. It just watched me. I stepped back and my heel hit the edge of the giant pit, and I stumbled. I didn't fall in, but it was way too close. When I looked back up, the thing was gone. I heard no rustling, no sound. It was just gone, but somehow I knew it hadn't left. And then came the noise. A high-pitched, ringing whine. The sound was so sharp that it cut through the air and through my skull. Then, suddenly, I couldn't think straight. I dropped to one knee, clutching my head with both hands. That's when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Cold, long fingers. I jumped up and ran. I didn't look back. I didn't care where I was going. I just ran through the darkness, tripping over roots and half-buried stones. At one point, I clipped a mound and rolled halfway down the side, scraping my arm. I barely noticed. I found the gate, the same one I'd come in through, and I swear it was closed now. But when I hit it, it swung right open. I dove through it and didn't stop until I reached my car. Only when I was safely locked in my car with the engine running did I dare look back. And I saw it. At the tree line, just beyond the mounds, it was there, still watching me. I drove for over an hour before stopping at some tiny 24-hour gas station off the interstate. I stumbled inside for coffee and bandages. The cashier, an old man who looked like he'd been there since the 1970s, took one look at me and nodded slowly. "You came from the mounds," he stated. Not even a question. I froze. He poured my coffee and said, "You shouldn't have gone at night." I asked him what he meant. He didn't answer right away. He just tapped the counter with one finger and stared past me like he was watching something only he could see. "Those mounds were here before time," he finally said. "People always think they know what they are. Burial sites, ceremonial grounds. But they never ask why they're all built in patterns, why they point to certain stars, or why the oldest tribes never settled on them, only around them." I asked him about the creature, the thing I saw. He didn't flinch. "Some say it's what's left of the old gods. Some say it's what was buried there before people ever came. Others say it's not from here at all." I asked if it could follow someone. He met my eyes, "If it wants to." I left the gas station with my skin crawling. When I got home the next day, everything felt different. My phone glitched constantly. Lights flickered even though the wiring was fine. My dreams were full of that ring of stones, that gaping hole in the earth, and the thing watching from just beyond the tree line. And there were noises in the house. Footsteps when I was alone, doors creaking open on their own. My cat now refused to go near the windows after dark. He used to spend every evening peeking out into the night. I saged the place, I burned Palo Santo. I even talked to a friend who knew a woman that did energy clearing. She came in, walked the rooms, then asked me point blank, "Did you bring something back with you?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know. But I do know that for weeks afterwards, I'd catch glimpses of something tall in the corner of mirrors, or see shapes moving across the yard at night just beyond the fence. I've never gone back to Cahokia at night, and I never will. I'm Devin, and thanks for joining me, Porch Pals. For more stories like this, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and help me reach 1,000 subscribers. And remember, there's always room for one more on the porch.